Alright, so this morning I went and got some of that foaming NG degreasers, and we're going to go ahead and spray everything down again, and we're going to get that scrubbed down. We're going to let it sit for a few minutes, and this way we'll get it extra clean, and we'll get that all sorted out. Alright, so what I'm doing, I've already re-washed the engine. I'm taking a little bit of compressed air, just blowing all the excess water out of here. This way, it won't cause any problems later on. Alright, let me finish this. Alright, I got that all blown out and dried off. There's still a little bit of water down in the bottom, but it should be fine. It's already starting to get really hot. It's just after 12. So I'm going to let this sit for a while, and then I'm going to get on the spark plugs this afternoon. I'll probably come back out here in a little bit and finally get this car up on jack stands. Whew. Yeah, ooh, hot one. Alright, got the front wheels chalked, got my jack stand out, got my jack back here. Gonna get this thing up on the jack stand so I can pull the wheels off, and then go inside and wait until it cools off a little bit more, and then I'll come back and start working on getting the spark plugs out. So the motor's looking pretty good. Got the top all cleaned up a little bit, blew all that out with some air, and so now it's just drying again, but it's looking a lot better. So that's always a plus. Now if I get overspray from oil, I'll at least be able to track where it's coming from. I'll do the same once I get everything off out here and see what kind of mess we have at the bottom. Alright, so let me get the jack situated so I can get this up on the jack stand. Okay, we got it on jack stands. I can get my hand just under it. There's the jack stand on the jack point. One over there on the jack point. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zap these off real quick. That is a 19. And I'm going to use my impact. They're already broke loose. I did it yesterday before I overheated. Today I'm already getting hot. So I'm going to get the wheels off. I'm just going to do the oil change and the spark plugs today, which should be an easy thing. All the parts are in. I got the boots in, so I'm gonna get the wheels off now, and that way when it cools off a little bit, I can start doing the spark plugs. Well, just like everything else on this car, cobwebs and dirt. So there's our 3 coils. This is the driver's side, so that looks like it'll be fairly easy to get to. I saw online a couple of different ways of doing that, but yeah, it's a little dirty. I might spray this all down too after I get the oil changed, or I might spray it down before I do it. I'll see. Alright, so I'm going to slide around to the other side, pull off that wheel. Like I said, these brakes have a pretty substantial lip. So I'm assuming what they did is they changed the pads, but they never did the rotors, and they just kept driving on them. So supposedly this car had about 65,000 miles on it, give or take. Now, I did find in the car a purchase contract from a used car dealership, and it said the car had about 40,000 miles in 2016-17. Now the strange thing about this contract I found, it was the same owner that had owned this car in 2015, because I found that registration in the car from 2015 to 2016. And then it's like he sold it to a used car lot and bought it back, maybe? Not really sure. It's kind of weird. But then all the paperwork in the car ended at 2017. I haven't run a smog check verification to see when the last time the car was smogged or if it failed any smog checks, so I might do that. But yeah, the paperwork on this car is a little weird. But at least I have a pink slip and an auction sheet, so I will be able to get it registered without too much issue. Alright, so this water here is from where I washed here. It was kind of plugged up and I had to like stick my finger down inside there to get it, all that stuff to drain out, but it's still slowly draining, so that's always good to make sure those don't fill up the inside of your car with water if those drains plug. But yeah, same thing. There's our 3 coils on the passenger side. One up there in front, of course, is going to be the hardest one, and that is the one that has the fault, the one there in front. So we're going to have to get that off, see what's going on. I do want to spray some cleaner up in there. Man, everything is just grungy. Yeah, we'll see. But so far, other than the water on the ground, there's no leaks. That's water on that side. That's water on this side. Okay, so I believe those are Allens or hexes to get the coils out of there. There should be 2 per coil. And what else do we got to work with? That's not too bad. Yeah, so this front one's going to be the most challenging one to get out, I think. Just because it looks like it's the hardest to get to. So hopefully everything else is fine. I haven't run this car today, so everything is pretty cool. But yeah, and same thing on this side. The brake rotor is severely lipped on the inside and outside, but the brake pads look good. So yeah, it's pretty much like they just put pads on it and kept driving it. Kind of odd, almost like this may have came from a wrecking yard. And is that leaking? Yep, this one I think is bad. Maybe. I don't know, it's had a little bit of a wet spot. Like I said, I want to replace these anyway. These are all grunged up. Definitely need to be cleaned. Alright, back when it cools off. Alright, so to do the oil, I need, or you need, we need, an 8mm hex. I got a magnetic drain plug with new washers. I don't know if this one has one in it or not, so I'm going to go ahead and change it. So that's what we're doing right there. So we're going to go ahead and get that plug out, and then we will get the filter out with the filter tool, not a pair of channel locks, because that housing is plastic, I believe, so grabbing onto it you can actually damage it. So we're going to avoid doing that. We do have a new filter with a new O-ring, so we're going to get the plug out right now and start draining the oil, and then I'm going to start on the spark plugs. Alright, well, it's draining the oil. Now this car has between they say 7 and 10 quarts. It filled up my first 5-quart pan almost in an instant, and it's about half of my second, and it's just about done. So while it's doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and start on the plugs. But right there is the old drain plug. It is not a magnetic type, and somebody really decided they needed to crank that thing down to keep it from leaking. So this does come with new washer, crush washer, so that'll be cool. So yeah, so then once I get that all drained and cleaned up, I'm gonna wipe down all of, 1 second. All right, now the train's moved up the road a little bit and I can talk. So once that's all drained and I get that filter changed, I'm gonna wipe down the whole bottom of the motor and get any of the oil residue and grease residue. Everything has a thin coating, so I'm hoping there's no leaks, but I haven't seen any. So I'm not sure where all the road grind came from, or just is there because nobody ever took any time to take care of this thing. So let's get on to the plugs. And for the plugs, to get the coils off, we're going to need a 5mm Allen and then a spark plug socket, an adapter of some kind. Some people use swivels and do a long one, and my favorite, the rubber hose. I like to stick this over the end of the spark plug when I'm putting them back in, because I found years and years ago that if you start to put a spark plug in and it binds, you can't cross thread it because it'll slip inside the rubber tubing, so you'll never damage the threads inside the spark plug hole or the spark plug. And it gives you a nice big handle. And this is just an old piece of rubber hose. You can cut it as long as you need it, and it's flexible so you can get into all those tight corners. So those are the tools I'm going to be using. I'm going to get on that right now. Alright, so I just got the first spark plug, well, the third on this side out, and it looks like the end of this boot's kind of chunky. So I don't know if that's good or bad. Can we see down inside that hole at all? A little bit. Can't really see. So what I'm going to do, because I don't know if that rubber boot is stuck down there, I'm going to get my air chuck and blow a little air. That way I can blow any dirt out of that, just to make sure, just a light puff. Now I did get some new boots, but I don't think these are the same as the ones that I got. We will see. Okay, so I got the two spark plugs, this rear one, the center one, out, and they are not that old. I mean, the plugs, it looks fairly decent, but they are pretty fouled. But that could have been the air cleaner, because that air cleaner was really junk. But these boots on these coils are split open, like that one right there. This one is missing part of its end. This one here, actually, this oil scraper, whatever this is, if you look right there, it's split. So I think what I'm going to do is end up ordering coils. I did order these new tubes, but these are not what I have in my motor. So I'm going to go ahead and just replace these coils. The coils themselves, I believe, are factory, and they're pretty old and crusty. So I'm just going to order a new set of coils and then I'll put the plugs in. So yeah, I question how many miles are on this motor for real, just from the looks of it down here. So yeah, I really think this thing probably has more than 50,000, 60,000 miles on it. Just the way it was taken care of, and how much dirt and crap, and nobody ever just cleaned it up while they were working on it. They just sort of drove it to shit. Okay, so I'm gonna finish pulling a spark plug on this side, go around and pull the other ones, and then go inside and see about ordering up those coils and returning these other parts that are not correct. Alright, so I bought that 101 tip book for the Boxster, and it said spark plugs took about 2 hours. I've been on this for about, I don't know, 35-40 minutes, and I am down to my last plug, which is the front one on the driver's side. I did take this plastic shield off right here to give myself a little bit more room. I'm sure I could have worked around it, but I found on the passenger side it just made life easier. Now that plug that was showing the misfire on the scanner was number 1, and so far that's the only plug that was dry. All these other ones are wet. Like I said, that air filter was completely plugged, so just doing a basic tune-up here is probably going to help this thing out a lot. Like I said, I'm going to have to order coils. Every single boot on the coil is ripped, torn, or just messed up, so we're going to go ahead and replace it. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this 10 mil right here off, and that way I can move this connector for the cat, the O2 sensor right here, just over, so I can get to the two 5 mil Allens to get the coil out. So I'm going to do that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reach up and just unhook the coil from the wire, and then I'll go ahead and start with getting that out of there. Alright, now with that out of the way, you can see now we have access to get to the coil, sort of. It's behind this tube. There's the bolt right there. So this just will pull up out of the way so we can get in there real easy. But yeah, so yeah, we just moved that so it's out of the way, and now we can get in there with our 1/4 inch 5 mil. Okay, so I got all the spark plugs out. Every single one of these boots is split or broke, so I'm just going to replace the coils and the boots. But all the spark plugs are out. I blew all the holes out before I took them out, so there's some dust or anything inside there. So the next thing we're going to do is crawl under there and unscrew the oil filter housing and let it drain, and go from there. And then we're probably gonna, once we get that out, we're gonna go ahead and call this a day. I'm gonna order the coils and return these spark plug boots that clearly weren't the right ones, and I'll get back on this tomorrow or day or two. I'll just have to see when stuff comes in. Alright, so oil filter came out, no problem. Oil filter housing is right there. I don't see any metal shavings or any chunks in the filter. I mean, the oil's black, you know, but again, it could have been sitting for 4 years, and that's why it looks like this. I don't know. The filter, you can still read the numbers on. I'm not sure if that's factory. I'm pretty sure it's been changed at least once. But yeah, so we're going to get we have the new filter, we have a new gasket for the housing, we have a new drain plug, the magnetic one, so all that will be going back in. And so we're just going to call this a day. We're going to let this drip overnight, get all that oil out of there, and I'm going to say we were pretty damn close to 7 to 10 quarts, because these are two 5-quart pans and they're almost equal, so it's a lot of oil. Alright, thanks for watching. Back with it later.